Chapter 1. Luke Barrett's calloused fingers crushed the land agent's letter, the words burning through him like whiskey on an empty stomach. Marry within 14 days or forfeit Barrett Ridge to the bank. The ultimatum mucked him from the yellowed paper. 2 weeks to find a wife, or lose everything his family had bled for over 3 generations. The ranch house creaked around him, its worn floorboards echoing his father's last words. Land don't care about pride, boy. It cares about heirs. With a growl, Luke stormed to the telegraph office and penned the damned message himself. Wanted, temporary wife, 1-year marriage contract, $500 paid upon signing. No romance, no questions. His boot heels punched holes in the dirt road as he walked away. Love? That ship had sailed when Mary Ellen took his heart to her grave. Now he needed a signature, not a sweetheart. The 3:15 train from Laramie coughed steam onto Sweet Ash Junction's platform as Caroline Sutton adjusted her gloves. The scar along her collarbone itched beneath her high-necked dress, a permanent reminder that trusting the wrong man could get you killed. The telegram in her pocket promised safety. Legal marriage, separate quarters, discretion guaranteed. Exactly what a woman with a $2,000 bounty on her head needed. She spotted him before he spoke, tall as a barn door with shoulders that blocked the sun, his denim jacket straining over arms that clearly knew hard work. When those gunmetal blue eyes locked onto her, Caroline stiffened. She'd met dangerous men before. This one had reckoning written in the set of his jaw. "You the bride for hire?" Luke's voice roughened the words like saddle leather. Caroline's chin lifted. "You the rancher who can't keep his land without a stranger's help?" A flicker of surprise crossed his face before he reached for her bag. "Wagons this way." Dust devils spun across the prairie as the wagon lurched toward Barrett Ridge. Caroline memorized every twist in the road. Escape routes were habit now. Luke's silence felt heavier than the August heat until he finally spoke. "You cook?" "Poison exceptionally well," she deadpanned. The corner of his mouth twitched. "Good. We've got rats in the barn." When Caroline's surprised laugh slipped out, Luke's grip on the reins loosened. Strange how a woman who smelled like citrus and gunpowder could disarm a man without trying. The ranch house sagged with lonely years, its porch groaning under their combined weight. Luke shouldered open the door to reveal a Spartan kitchen and 2 bedrooms divided by a flimsy curtain. "Your side's got a lock," he said, tossing her bag onto a quilt-covered bed. Caroline ran a finger through the dust on the windowsill. "Charming." "It's standing. That's more than some can say." The ledger on the table caught her eye, pages filled with desperate numbers. So this was really about saving his land. She turned to find him watching her, his shadow stretching across the floorboards between them like a challenge. "Contract gets signed tomorrow. Last chance to back out." Caroline unbuttoned her cuffs, revealing the knife strapped to her wrist. "I don't run from deals or men." Thunder rattled the roof as they shook hands, her calluses scraping her palm. Neither let go first. Somewhere past the storm, a coyote howled. Fitting, Caroline thought. The wilderness always recognized its own.
Chapter 2. Dawn bled through the curtains when Caroline woke, the unfamiliar weight of a borrowed quilt pressing down like a secret. The room smelled of sun-warmed wood and the faint sting of gun oil, Luke's scent, though he'd never slept here. She dressed quickly, fingers pausing at the knife strapped to her thigh before smoothing her skirts. The kitchen held surprises, coffee steaming in a chipped enameled pot, eggs keeping warm near the stove. Luke sat shirtless at the table, a map of old scars across his shoulders. He didn't glance up from sharpening his skinning knife. "Eat." Caroline scraped back a chair. "You cook often for women you blackmail into marriage?" The knife stilled. "Contract's on the table. Read it before you sign." She forked eggs onto her plate, eyeing the document. Clause 3 snagged her attention. Wife will accompany husband to town events. Her lip curled. You need a prop for your performance? Luke's knuckles whitened around the knife handle. I need the land agent to see us together. One Sunday social, that's all. Thunder rumbled in the distance, or maybe it was just the blood in her ears. Fine, but I pick my own dress. Main Street buzzed with whispers as Caroline walked into the Mercantile. The shopkeeper's wife beelined for her, sugar-sweet and snake-eyed. We heard Luke Barrett finally found himself a bride, though seems he forgot the ring. Caroline smiled, sharp as broken glass. Funny, he said the same about your husband's backbone. She left the woman sputtering, tossing coins for fabric onto the counter. Outside, 3 ranch hands loitered by her horse. The tallest tipped his hat. "Ma'am, heard you're the reason old man Henderson lost his bet." His smile didn't reach his eyes. Funny how quick Luke replaced Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen, a name with history, a ghost between her and a man she barely knew. Luke was waiting on the porch when she rode back, his gaze tracking the way her skirts tangled around her legs as she dismounted. "Trouble?" She thrust the fabric bundle at him. "Who's Mary Ellen?" The name hung there, ugly and raw. Luke's expression hardened. "Not part of our deal." He turned toward the barn. She caught his arm. "It is when strangers throw her in my face." For a heartbeat she thought he'd shake her off. Then his voice dropped, rough as sandpaper. "My late wife. Buried her 2 years ago next month." He stepped back, putting cold distance between them. Caroline's fingers curled empty at her sides. The truth settled like dust. This marriage wasn't just a contract for him. It was a betrayal. That night, rain pattered against the roof as Caroline lay awake. Down the hall, floorboards creaked under restless footsteps. She imagined Luke staring at the same ceiling, both of them trapped in this fragile lie. A crash from the kitchen sent her bolting upright. She found Luke shirtless in the moonlight, wiping spilled whiskey off the table. Their eyes locked across the broken glass. Neither apologized. Neither looked away.
Chapter 3. The rider appeared at high noon, his silhouette cutting through the heat waves rising from the prairie. Caroline felt the danger before she saw it, the way her spine stiffened as she pinned Luke's shirts to the clothesline, the sudden dryness in her mouth. Luke noticed too. He dropped the harness he was mending and walked to the porch, wiping his hands on his trousers. By the time the stranger reined in his dun mare, Luke's rifle leaned against the doorframe within reach. "Afternoon," the man drawled, thumbs hooked in his gun belt. His black coat was too heavy for the season. "Looking for a woman called Sutton?" Caroline's clothespin snapped in her fist. Luke shifted slightly, blocking the man's view of her. "No Suttons here." The stranger's smile didn't touch his eyes. "Funny. Rumor says Barrett took in a stray with chestnut hair and a knife habit." His gaze slid past Luke to Caroline. "That scar on your collarbone looked like a crescent moon?" Ice flooded Caroline's veins. Henderson's men. She hadn't run far enough. Luke's voice turned deadly quiet. "You have 10 seconds to ride out." "Or what?" He reached inside his coat. "I've got a warrant here with her." The cocking hammer of Luke's revolver cut him off. 9 seconds. For a heartbeat, the only sound was the mare's nervous stamping. Then the stranger spat in the dirt and wheeled his horse around. "This ain't over, Barrett. She's worth $2,000 alive. More dead." Caroline didn't breathe until the dust settled. Luke watched the rider disappear, then turned to face her. The questions in his eyes hurt worse than accusations. "I didn't steal money. I took proof. Ledgers showing Henderson sold guns to Comancheros. When I ran, he framed me for the foreman's murder." Her fingers worried the scar beneath her dress collar.
The bullet that gave me this was meant for my heart." The fire crackled as Luke tossed the unread warrant into the flames. "Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me?" He studied her, the tremble in her hands, the truth in her eyes. "I believe you now." Caroline's knees nearly buckled. No one had ever said those words to her, not without wanting something in return. That night she lay awake staring at the ceiling. The house creaked as Luke paced the porch, his shadow passing the window at regular intervals, standing guard. She found him at dawn, slumped in the rocking chair with his hat pulled low. The warrant's ashes clung to his boots. When she touched his shoulder, he startled awake, hand flying to his gun. "Just me," she whispered. His grip relaxed. The way he looked up at her like she was something precious, not prey, made her throat tighten. "You should sleep inside." Luke's calloused fingers brushed hers as he took the coffee she offered. "Not while there's bounty on your head." The note was gone when he woke. Luke bolted upright, the blanket she'd draped over him sliding to the floor. The ranch was too quiet. No clatter of pans, no humming as she worked. He found the letter nailed to the barn door with her boot knife. "Gone to settle this. If I don't return by sundown, burn my things and forget my name." The paper crumpled in his fist. Forget her? Hell, he was already saddling his horse. Chapter 4. The canyon walls narrowed around Caroline as she urged her mare faster, the animal's flanks heaving. Every hoofbeat carried her further from Luke's ranch, closer to the past she'd sworn to outrun. The wind stole tears before they could fall. "He'll be better off," she told herself, but the lie tasted bitter. Back at Barrett Ridge, Luke stood in the empty barn, saddle in hand. The note still burned in his pocket. He'd told himself this marriage was about land, contracts, survival. Then why did the thought of her alone on that road feel like a knife between his ribs? He threw the saddle onto his gelding with a curse. Somewhere along the way, Caroline Sutton had become more than ink on paper. Copper Creek's lone farmhouse sagged under the weight of memories. Caroline's knuckles whitened on the reins as her Aunt Ruth emerged, hands flying to her mouth. "Child, you're walking into a noose. Walter's got the sheriff in his pocket." Caroline dismounted, knees trembling. "I know." She pressed the ledger into Ruth's hands, the one she'd stolen that fateful night. Pages of Walter's gun-running deals, inked in his own hand. "This proves what he is, what he did to me." Ruth's fingers traced the crescent-shaped scar visible above Caroline's collar. "He'll kill you for this. Let him try. I'm done being afraid." The saloon stank of whiskey and sweat. Caroline's boot heels struck the floorboards like gunshots as she entered. Conversations died mid-sentence. Walter Henderson looked up from his cards, his smile slow and venomous. "Boys, look what the cat dragged in." He stood, knocking over his chair. "My runaway bride."
Caroline kept her right hand near her hidden derringer. "I was never yours." She raised her voice so the whole room could hear. "But these ledgers are definitely yours. Every illegal arms deal, every payment to common sharrows." Walter's face darkened. He reached for his Colt. The doors burst open behind her. Luke stood framed in sunlight, rifle in hand, chest heaving from the ride. Their eyes met across the smoky room. Caroline shook her head slightly. "My fight." Walter laughed. "Your pet cowboy here to save you?" Luke didn't move, just bearing witness. The barkeep's shotgun blasted into the ceiling, rained down splinters. "Next one goes lower."
Walter's hand hovered near his holster. Caroline saw the calculation in his eyes. A wanted man couldn't afford more witnesses. With a snarl, he kicked the ledger across the floor. "This ain't over, woman." "It is." The sheriff stepped forward, holding up the damning pages. The room erupted in murmurs. Luke finally moved then, coming to stand beside Caroline, close enough that his warmth seeped into her shoulder. "Are you all right?" She turned her palm up, letting their fingers brush. "Now I am." Outside, dusk painted the sky in violets and golds. Luke studied her profile, the way the fading light caught her lashes. "You could have told me." Caroline exhaled shakily. "Would you have believed some outlaw's daughter?" His thumb traced the back of her hand. "I believe the woman who stood up to him today." The truth swelled between them, fragile as a soap bubble. This marriage had begun with lies, but the way Luke looked at her now, like she was worth riding through hell for, felt more real than any vow. Caroline leaned into him as they walked toward the horses. Somewhere ahead, the road home waited. Chapter 5. The fire popped, sending embers swirling into the indigo night. Caroline watched them rise like tiny stars before dissolving into darkness. Luke's shoulder brushed hers as he added another log, the heat flushing her cheeks, or maybe that was just his nearness. "You never asked," she said suddenly, turning her coffee cup in her hands. "About the scar." Luke poked the flames with a stick. "Figured you'd tell me when ready." The honesty in his voice undid her. She touched her collarbone. "Walter threw a whiskey bottle, said he'd mark me so no one else would want me." Luke's knuckles whitened around the stick before he snapped it in two. He said nothing, didn't need to. The way his jaw flexed spoke volumes. Caroline exhaled shakily. "Funny thing is, it worked. Until you." Dawn painted the ranch in gold as they rode through the gate. Mrs. Peabody from the Mercantile gaped from her buggy, then hurriedly snapped the reins. Caroline almost laughed. By noon, the whole county would know Luke Barrett had brought his wife home, and she'd come willingly. Inside, the house smelled of yesterday's bread and wood smoke. Luke hung his hat with deliberate care. He gestured awkwardly toward the preacher's house visible through the window. Caroline stepped into his space. "Do you want to marry me, Luke? Not for land, for you." His breath hitched. Slowly he traced her jaw with his thumb. "Since the day you called me out for buying wives by telegram." The oak tree's leaves whispered overhead as Preacher Matthews cleared his throat. "Luke, do you—" "Yes." Luke didn't let him finish, gripping Caroline's hands like a lifeline. "Every damn day." Caroline's laughter mingled with tears. "I do too, even when you snore." The preacher rolled his eyes but smiled. "Then I reckon you're married proper." Luke didn't kiss her like a man performing for neighbors. He kissed her like a drought-ending rain, one hand tangled in her hair, the other pressing their joined hands against his pounding heart. Later, in the flickering lamplight, Caroline traced the scar on Luke's ribs, a souvenir from a bronc gone wild. He shuddered under her touch. "Funny," he murmured, catching her fingers. "Spent years thinking this place was my legacy." His lips found her palm. "Turns out it's you." Caroline melted into him, the quilt sliding away. No more separate rooms, no more pretending. Just skin and whispered truths and the glorious shock of being truly known. Somewhere around midnight, as the coyotes sang to the moon, Luke pressed a kiss to her bare shoulder. "Still think you're just forged iron?" he teased. Caroline turned in his arms. "No," she kissed him slow and deep. "I think we're both gold now." Outside, the wind carried the scent of rain coming. a new season, a proper beginning.
If you enjoyed listening to this story, do well to subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comment section. See you on our next video. Toodles!